sounds like a copycat because what are the odds that two people in the same neighborhood have the exact same impulse to do something which is not generally done?
Since Himmelman confronted the serial litterer a couple weeks ago, there's been no religious text, no erotica, and no butts. But the mystery continues. Bahar Ostadan, WNYC News.
WNYC supporters include An Evening with David Sedaris, May 16th at the King's Theater in Brooklyn. The evening will feature news stories and observations along with an audience Q&A and book signing. Ticketing and information at davidsedarisontour.com.
At home or out and about, you're never too far from your mobile phone, which means you're never too far from WNYC. Live stream your favorite shows anytime. Just go to your browser and type in WNYC.org.
If you're one of the thousands of listeners who support WNYC with a financial contribution, thank you. It's possible that your employer participates in a workplace matching gifts program, which could double or even triple your support. To find out if your donation can be matched by your employer, just visit our easy search tool at wnyc.org/match. And thank you.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC NewsHour on WNYC. Let's check in with London to see what they're working on. London, good morning.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Nuala McGovern. On today's NewsHour, we hear accounts of American mercenaries who carried out politically motivated assassinations in Yemen for the UAE. Plus, NewsHour's James Menendez is in Argentina looking at how new President Javier Milei plans to implement his reform strategy. That's BBC NewsHour coming up at 9 on WNYC.
37 with clouds in some places, showers in others. We have a slim chance of early afternoon rain today. Still cloudy, high of 37, and then warmer tomorrow up to 41 with a better chance of rain. And then on Thursday and Friday, temperatures in the 50s with rain. It's 8:52.
Fixing FEMA.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by UiPath. More than 10,000 organizations use the UiPath AI-powered business automation platform to put AI to work. UiPath.com/marketplace. UiPath, the foundation of innovation. And by Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks delivers what's next in cybersecurity innovation to protect today's digital way of life. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. After a natural disaster, getting individual aid from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, can be a notoriously slow and cumbersome process. The Biden administration is attempting to take on that problem. Under new rules, FEMA will offer upfront housing vouchers and shorten the application process for businesses, among other changes. Marketplace's Savannah Marr has more.
The largest wildfire in New Mexico's history was set by the federal government. It started out as a prescribed burn in 2022 before it got out of control. 2 years later, hundreds of victims are still waiting on FEMA payments.
It's been exhausting.
Jana Lopez runs a community group that's been helping people apply for aid.
Right when they think they have their application turned in, more documents are requested, more affidavits.
FEMA's new regulations are meant to cut through this kind of red tape, especially for low-income victims and those without disaster insurance.
I think it's all trending in the right direction.
But Michael Wara, a climate policy expert at Stanford, says FEMA has more work to do.
The reality is that it is much more cost-effective to help people be prepared for disaster rather than to help them recover.
Wara says it would cost less for the agency to offer more grants and loans to help make homes more resilient to wildfires and floods. I'm Savannah Marr for Marketplace.
The Dow and S&P 500 hit record highs yesterday. Overseas, Japan's Nikkei hit a 34-year high. So what is behind this rally? Marketplace's Nova Safo takes a look.
The short of it is that investors in the U.S. are expecting a lot of encouraging news, and overseas they got a jolt of optimism. This week alone, dozens of S&P 500 companies are reporting quarterly earnings, as are about a third of Dow components. Profits, generally speaking, are expected to hold up well. There's also government data coming this week on inflation and fourth quarter GDP growth, both likely pointing to a soft landing for the economy. In the meantime, the Bank of Japan held off from raising interest rates, saying inflation had not yet reached a sustained 2% rate. And when it begins raising rates, the central bank is expected to do so slowly. That, combined with what appears to be solid wage growth in Japan, juiced up the Nikkei to fresh highs. I'm Novosafo for Marketplace.
Meanwhile, China's CSI 300 stock index is hovering around a 5-year low. The country's still dealing with the housing crisis and low growth. Let's see how markets here are doing so far today. Let's do the numbers. Dow futures are down less than 0.1%. S&P and NASDAQ futures are up in the 2 to 0.4% range. And the yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.130%. Netflix has struck a deal with World Wrestling Entertainment to exclusively stream the weekly live show Raw for $500 million a year for 10 years. That starts in January of 2025. Netflix reports earnings later today. Its stock is up 1.8% in pre-market trading.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by UKG, an HR payroll and workforce management solution designed with people in mind to help make a fairy tale workplace a reality. UKG, our purpose is people. And by C3 Generative AI, verified traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free. Learn more at c3.ai.
Boeing is scheduled to release its earnings for the fourth quarter of last year at the end of this month. Boeing stock has taken a beating since a door plug blew out of a 737 MAX 9 jet earlier this month. And Boeing has only reported 2 profitable quarters since 2019 after 2 fatal crashes involving the Boeing 737 MAX 8. The road to this point has been a long one, as Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer reports.
Ronald Epstein was a young engineer working for McDonnell Douglas when it merged with Boeing in 1997. At that time, he says Boeing's top executives were engineers.
The folks that designed the airplanes were on the top of the pile. If you just look at the pecking order of management today, that's not the case anymore.
Today, Epstein is the lead aerospace defense analyst at Bank of America Global Research. He says after the merger, Boeing started focusing more on the bottom line.
Maybe Boeing wasn't as focused on some of the financial things that it should have been. I mean, ultimately, it's a business. But I think the argument goes it went too far.
Epstein says it doesn't help that Boeing moved its headquarters to Arlington, Virginia, far from the factories where it makes commercial aircraft. And the 737 MAX 8 still has problems, according to Ed Pearson. He's a former senior manager at Boeing and now executive director of the Foundation for Aviation Safety. Pearson says pilots flying the MAX 8 and 9 are told not to use its anti-ice system for more than 5 minutes in dry air so it won't overheat and lead to engine failure.
Pilots have told us it's kind of like being told, hey, don't forget to turn your rear defroster off. How many of us haven't accidentally left the rear defroster on, right?
Boeing emailed me a statement stressing that the anti-ice system hasn't caused any safety incidents, which, quote, would require a very specific combination of weather and operational conditions. Boeing says it's working on a permanent fix. In a webcast to employees, Boeing President and CEO Dave Calhoun stressed his commitment to safety.
This stuff matters. Everything matters. Every detail matters.
But Pearson, the former senior manager at Boeing, he won't fly in Boeing's MAX planes, even if he doesn't discover he's on a MAX until he sits down in his seat. He says that happened last April on a flight from Seattle to New Jersey.
So I got up and just walked off the plane.
Richard Abulafia has no problems flying in a 737 MAX because he's confident government regulators are doing their jobs. Abulafia is managing director at Aerodynamic Advisory. He is concerned, though, about Boeing's manufacturing process, and he says Boeing's Defense, Space and Security Division, which makes military aircraft and the Starliner spacecraft, also has problems.
Cost overruns, schedule delays, ill-advised fixed-price contracts that result in big losses for the company.
Abalafia says Boeing's third division, Global Services, is making money. He doesn't think the door plug problems will be a huge hit to the company's bottom line, but he says Boeing will face more scrutiny from regulators. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Ben-Achour with the Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.